morning. It is my timeline, January 23rd, 12:24 a.m. Had a really long nap. I had a really long nap yesterday, Friday. After I came in from being outside, I don't know what it was. I just, I felt tired. And so I just listened to my body and took a long nap. Woke up like at 10, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 8 hours of sleep. So I'm wide awake. So I just, yeah. So, you know, I was trying to respond to like messages and just, yeah, text messages. People were like calling me, and then I was, started working on printing out stuff for Spain, you know, all the paperwork, which is good too, because I was listening to Chris from Minopan, and one of the readings he mentioned was to be aware of my paperwork. Be aware of my paperwork because the fine details. The last time he recommended that, I was actually in the middle of doing like loan refinancing, and I missed something. So I was, yeah, and he had warned to be careful, and I was just like going fast. As I'm going through this, I'm realizing there's a lot of like little stuff that I'm like, oh snap, I'm gonna have to go back and check, because I didn't like, the letter of recommendations are supposed to be a certain length, and I didn't tell the people that I'm asking for letters of rec on that. So that'll be first thing later today when it's an appropriate time to reach out, because I'm sure they're probably sleeping right now. But anyways, the purpose of this video was this realization of that flame thing that I had seen a week ago in my sleeping state of meditation. I don't know what you want to call it. But so I mentioned that I do a weekly tarot read for myself, and I don't know how to read all the cards. Like, it takes a while. I'm still looking at the booklet, you know, but I'm expanding in the sense that I'm switching up my, like, I'm adding different cards. I think I mentioned it before. I have 3 actual tarot card decks with different pictures, and then I have 2 oracle cards, just so I can, well, the 2 oracle cards are separate because they have their own, I think they're just different in how they're set up. But the tarot, it's the same cards. The picture might look different, and I'm all about the art, right? Like, I go with whatever I get drawn to. And so I was, being that it's, well, I thought it was Friday, but clearly it's Saturday morning. I mentioned that I am starting to leave my spread out for the week, just so that periodically during the week I can go back and reflect on it and kind of see where I'm at, and see if, like, you know, looking at the oracle, mostly looking at the oracle cards for guidance and just things to be aware of. And the crazy thing is that it's matching. Like, I think I mentioned it before, like, I have it spread out for the week. So I have the present, recent, past, present, and then future, but it's broken up into the week also. So it's like the first row is like the first few days of the week, middle days, end of the week. And that's how I look at it. And so, because initially when I started doing it that way, I would just do the spread, but I wouldn't sit down and actually reflect on it until the middle of the week. So it made sense that what happened at the beginning part was like my recent past, middle of the week what's happening right now, and then the end of the week what was upcoming. So I sat down reflecting on it, and again, it's just all resonating. And it's talking about it talks about the flame. It talks about the flame. Well, not just the flame, but just realizing that a limitation, self-imposed limitations, right? By the time you watch this one, I've already posted that other one on self-imposed limitations. So this whole waiting thing, right, that I'm going through, that I was getting frustrated with, I'm I'm realizing it's my self-imposed restriction, right? Limitation. And then it says, regardless of who is to blame, it is my responsibility to defy a false limitation. I'm like, okay, this is false limitation on my part, right? And I think I had pointed it out in the more recent video, right, that I realized that Chris from Middle Pond even pointed it out, that, you know, to not give up on something because I've already mastered the lesson. Like, I'm aware of it, right? So it's no longer really something that's holding me back per se, because I'm responding differently to the situation already. But then there is a part where it even like talks about life moving, blah 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 blah. Where's, oh, so the end, right? I was looking at the end cards, and then it talks about a coping. So this was the card, moderation. And it says a coping mechanism, a helper, or an attitude that has served you reaches its limit. The impulse to pull back from a situation or a relationship, a stray word or action offers a taste of things to come. Letting go of moderation reveals more than expected. Resist or be resistant to, adding insult to injury. When you remove your emotions, what is left? And then it goes on to, that was an earthly meaning, and then spiritual meaning is all about love. You know, you came with love, you're gonna leave with love, blah 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 blah. Oh, no, wait. And then it says, everything else. So love is the only thing you entered in the world, is the only thing that you will take with you when you leave. It's your true essence. Everything else is transient, like clouds passing by. So I thought that was really neat, because this whole week I have been extra, like, focusing extra on the clouds and just taking pictures. And it just talks about like the clouds passing by here for a moment and then gone the next. Look within and you will see that love is not a distant shore, but an ocean of light inside you, right? Okay, there's that. When I do my spread, I follow MJ's format where she does blocks and barriers and then actions and advice. So actions and advice, one card came out and I didn't clarify because I already knew what it meant. It was a temperance card, right? Temperance. And I had mentioned the temperance, right? And I hadn't really looked at this card. Really, I hadn't looked at it, but I looked it up. And it talks about maintaining balance, practicing moderation, and combining forces. The figure portrayed on the card tempers a chalice of water and a chalice of fire. She combines the two in just the right balance, that instead of the water putting out the fire, together they create a rainbow. She sits with one foot on dry land, the material world, and one foot on water, the subconscious, right? Which is, I didn't realize it until like the picture. There's the fire and there's the water, right? Here's the other one, my favorite deck, where it's the same concept. Just the symbolism is a little bit different and it's more of the water, but the steam behind her, right? That's initially what it talks about. But it was this one that I got excited about because it matched my, right? The flame in the water, and I mean, there was no rainbow, but there was like the bubbles, right? Of the combination of that fire and water combined. So I was really excited because I was just like, oh, I think that's the answer to that message, right? I I mean, I don't know what it means. In I guess just maintaining balance, right? Maintaining balance in what I'm doing. And then the crazy thing is, the 8 of Cups came out. The 8 of Cups came out in the future, and it came out in the Celtic reading earlier this week also, because I was really thinking like, what's the Eight of Cups? What's the Eight of Cups? Like, I already feel like I've let go of stuff, right? And I didn't realize that it also came out of my card in my spread. Because again, I'm still learning about the card stuff, but that came out, and it represents sadness and abandoning the old in search of a deeper meaning, solitude and change, weary with the way things have been. One is urged to leave part of the past behind in search of something more fulfilling. In this card of transition, the figure portrayed in the card emerges from the water cautiously with a bit of sadness and reluctance. That was this card, but this isn't the card that came out. It was another one, the other deck, but it's still Eight of Cups. Regardless, it's the Eight of Cups, right? Sadness, walking away of something that, I guess in the other deck that she used for my personal reading, she says it's like this person walking away from something that's okay, that's good, but it could be better, right? I haven't figured out what that means yet. But I also wanted to point out that I'm reading my daily devotionals for the week, and there were some things that came out. It wasn't as close to, in the sense of the type of guidance, it wasn't as close as the tarot. I remember I mentioned in another video that it felt like it was kind of similar, like this was like a daily devotional almost. It's just a different way of looking at a different perspective. And so this one, the same thing, January 18th, I really liked, because it talked about try to keep an open mind when you encounter things you have not seen before or even imagined, right? I'm always doing something new in your life. So this is like Jesus talking to us. And then it says, do not recoil from the unfamiliar without even taking time to determine whether it might be from me. Consider the trapeze artist. She must leave the safety of the swing she is on in order to move toward her goal. As she abandons the security of where she was, she will be briefly in flight until she connects to the next trapeze. So I really like that, because it, like, that sense of transition, right? You're in the middle of the transition, and I really feel like this period in my life is a time of transition. Well, it's just a different level of transition, because I guess the first 6 months were also a transition, but I was more in it then, right? Just taking it all in. And now that phase kind of like subsided, this is now like downtime for that next wave, whatever adventure comes my way. So I feel like that, like I'm in flight, like in the middle of, until I connect to that next thing. And so it goes on to say, at times you may feel like you're in flight when you experience newness that feels uncomfortable. The temptation is to just criticize the changes and click to the familiar. So it goes on to ask, always ask God. Always ask God. So always go within. And then there was this other one that talks about spirit, like suffering and joy in that, right? There's the book of Job, and as an example of suffering, and how a good person can suffer, right? And just looking at everything being in perspective, right? In terms of, there's certain parts of this particular one this was for January 20th, where it talks about like only the biblical, truth, biblical teaching. And even just like with this, right, there's a certain level of discernment that goes with it, right? To not being overly consumed, right? And that's something that I'll still be doing, is just discerning any and all information that I get, and to listen to my heart in that process. Because the moment that I'm led to feel like I'm being separated, or having to separate myself from others, or create an unnecessary gap, right, between me and someone else. And I say unnecessary because really looking at the underlying reason for this gap or separation between me and someone else, right? Because that goes against the ultimate truth of loving your neighbor like you love yourself, right? Why am I being separated from this other person? Is it fear of the unknown? Is it a lifestyle difference? You know, like what is the necessity behind this gap? And so because sometimes it is a necessity, right? I talked about boundaries, I talked about barriers, and how even in mental health, right, where we're in unhealthy situations or dangerous situations, right, where there's like abuse or trauma, you have to discern, right, within yourself, am I safe? Is this healthy? And being able to take that next step. Like for right now, I need to create this space, or I need to separate myself, or put these barriers up until I can learn to bring them back down, right? Because I feel what's safe within myself, that I'll know, right, when to put a stop to something that doesn't sit well with me, right? Where we find our voice, right? And all of this is found within, right? And when I say within, it's like connecting to God, you know, like, because that's what it is, you know, that's your heart. So that just stood out for me. And there were a few other passages that, there's one, January 23rd, one for tomorrow, it talks about going within, that the problem is not God, but in the receiver, right? How we focus, and then it talks about, you may be focused on other things, other pleasures or difficulties in life, and you're neglecting your relationship with me, which is through meditation and prayer, right? And then it also talked about the thing that many things in this world can bring pleasure for a while, but they are all passing away because of death and decay. So I really like that piece, because it just speaks to death, right? About how even family members and people we love, we get too attached to, in a way where we feel like we can't let them go, right? And not realizing that everything is temporal, right? Like, yeah, temporal. That was all. I was just excited because I realized the connection with the flame. And I was just so excited about that. This time I did interpret it. And not too late either. Yeah, I don't think so. If I did, well, making progress, right? Making progress, little by little. Connecting the dots. That's always fun. That was it. Hope you guys enjoy your day. I'm sure I'll probably record again because the week's not over. So we'll see what adventure lies in this weekend. You guys have a good one.